People think power is about being understood. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He'd tell you the moment someone can predict you, they can control you. The true game begins when you stop being readable, when no one, not even those closest to you, can tell what you truly think or feel. Because once you become impossible to read, you become impossible to manipulate. You wear what Machiavelli would call psychological armor, an invisible layer that makes others uneasy, cautious, and curious all at once. Think about the last time someone read you too easily. Maybe you showed excitement and they used it to raise the price. Maybe you showed frustration and they pushed harder. Or maybe you showed love and they took you for granted. Every visible emotion is a doorway. The question is, how many doors do you want open for people to walk through? Machiavelli believed that rulers, leaders, even ordinary individuals who want control must master the art of concealment, not through silence, but through unpredictability. The secret isn't to hide everything, but to reveal selectively, to make your thoughts appear like shadows moving behind glass, visible enough to intrigue, yet too distorted to define. He warned, never let your enemies know what truly drives you, because if they do, they'll build traps around your desires. The moment your intentions become transparent, you become a puppet of your own psychology. People won't fight you directly, they'll simply use your patterns against you. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are painfully readable. Not because they talk too much, but because their faces, tone, timing, and even silence all scream their motives. They think emotional honesty equals strength. But in the language of power, emotional transparency is weakness disguised as virtue. To become unreadable, you first need to understand what people actually read. It's not your words, it's your patterns. People don't analyze, they sense. They build maps of your reactions. What makes you excited, defensive, nervous, or proud? Once they've mapped you, they no longer listen, they predict. And when they can predict, they can control. That's why Machiavelli said that a ruler should be both fox and lion, the fox to hide his tracks, the lion to strike when the time is right. But today's world doesn't require claws or teeth. It requires psychological opacity. Opacity is when your motives can't be decoded. Your tone, your timing, your energy all become strategically neutral. When you succeed, people don't know if you're satisfied. When you lose, they can't tell if you're angry or calm. That confuses them. It destabilizes their emotional leverage over you. They start second-guessing themselves, and that's where your control begins. But here's what most people get wrong about being unreadable. They think it means being emotionless, robotic, or cold. It doesn't. It means being deliberate. You show what you choose to show. When you choose to show it, and to whom. You're not hiding emotion. You're weaponizing its timing. Because unpredictability is the purest form of control. When people can't predict your next move, they hesitate. And hesitation is the birth of power. Machiavelli often emphasized that fear is rooted not in what people know, but in what they can't. Mystery isn't about darkness, it's about controlled uncertainty. The people who dominate social dynamics are not the loudest or the kindest. They are the ones whose inner state cannot be pinned down. You never quite know if they're impressed, offended, or indifferent. That uncertainty keeps others orbiting them, trying to earn clarity that never comes. You can feel this when you meet someone who's completely self-contained. Their energy doesn't leak. They don't overshare. They don't rush to fill silence. Every word seems measured, as if they're 10 seconds ahead of the conversation. You can't tell what they're really thinking, and it drives you insane. That's power in its rawest form. It's not aggressive, it's gravitational. Becoming unreadable starts with emotional discipline. You must learn to observe yourself before reacting. Every reaction gives away a pattern. When you respond immediately, you reveal that you're emotionally transparent, that your mind can be mapped in real time. But when you pause, even for a few seconds, you create uncertainty. People start wondering what's happening inside you. That wonder gives you an advantage. In the corporate world, this is why the most feared people in meetings aren't the loud ones. It's the quiet ones who don't reveal whether they agree or disagree. Their stillness makes others nervous because humans crave feedback loops. When they don't get it, they overcompensate, revealing their own insecurities. You can make anyone show their hand just by withholding yours. But the hardest part of Machiavellian unreadability isn't silence, it's balance. Too much silence and you seem disengaged. Too much emotion and you become predictable. The mastery lies in rhythm, when to lean in, when to withdraw, when to show conviction, and when to show ambiguity. Machiavelli would say this rhythm makes you the controller of appearances, not their victim. There's also a subtler layer to unreadability, your micro-expressions. Humans read faces far more than they realize. Even when you think you're expressionless, your face leaks emotion. That's why true unreadability isn't just behavioral, it's psychological. It starts in the mind. You cannot fake calm. You must become it. The mind leaks through the face. If you're truly indifferent inside, your neutrality becomes real. If you're pretending, others will feel it. So unreadability isn't about acting, it's about mastery of inner emotion. Machiavelli's law of psychological armor is this: the less people can predict you, the more they must respect you. Predictability breeds comfort. Unpredictability breeds caution, and respect is built not from agreement or affection, but from the tension of uncertainty. This is why leaders who are overly open lose their edge. The more people understand how to please you, the more they'll start to manipulate you under the illusion of loyalty. Machiavelli warned against this when he said that a ruler must be feared and loved, but never too much of either. Fear makes people cautious. Love makes them loyal. But transparency destroys both, because it turns emotions into tools that others can use against you. Even in relationships, being too readable kills attraction. The human mind craves mystery. It needs unanswered questions to stay interested. When someone can't quite figure you out, they think about you more. That's not magic, it's psychology. It's the same mechanism that drives obsession with puzzles and stories. We're wired to chase what we can't fully decode. That's why being unreadable isn't cold, it's magnetic. So how do you start building this psychological armor in daily life? You start by noticing where you leak power. When you get emotional in arguments, when you over-explain your intentions, when you defend yourself against small criticisms. Each of those moments broadcasts something about you, what triggers you, what matters most to you, what kind of approval you seek. To the Machiavellian mind, every leak is an invitation for control. The solution is simple, though not easy. Stop reacting where others expect you to. Surprise them, not with chaos, but with composure. If someone insults you, don't defend. If someone flatters you, don't melt. If someone pressures you for answers, delay. Let their curiosity ferment. When people can't decode your reactions, they project their own insecurities onto the silence. That's the essence of psychological warfare, making others fight ghosts that you never reveal. But here's a deeper truth Machiavelli understood. Unreadability is useless without purpose. You don't become mysterious just for vanity. You do it to create leverage. When others can't read your boundaries, your emotions, or your motives, they're forced to approach you with respect. They tread carefully. They listen more. They reveal more. Because in any social interaction, the side that reveals less always has more control. Most people live as open books, unaware that every page they show is being studied and underlined by others. They reveal too much too soon, how they feel, what they want, what scares them, and then wonder why they end up being manipulated or underestimated. Machiavelli would say, this isn't innocence, it's carelessness. Because every time you let someone decode you, you give them a script to control you with. They know which buttons to press, which promises to make, which threats to use. Psychological armor is built by erasing that script entirely. You have to start becoming unpredictable not in action, but in emotion. When someone tries to anger you, don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. When they expect flattery, give them silence. When they expect you to fold, smile. People depend on emotional feedback to navigate social reality. Remove that feedback and their compass breaks. They start losing their sense of power around you because they can't measure their impact anymore. And that, more than anything, makes you powerful. Machiavelli believed that appearances are the battlefield of human relations. But few understand what he meant. It's not about fake smiles or pretending to be good. It's about constructing an image so layered that no one knows which layer is real. You can be kind without being predictable, calm without being harmless, ambitious without being obvious. The trick is to let people form opinions, but never confirm them. Every confirmation kills your mystique. Every mystery multiplies your influence. There's a subtle danger in overexposure, even in honesty. When people know your story, your weaknesses, your struggles, they start feeling equal, or worse, superior. They think they've figured you out, and familiarity replaces fascination. Machiavelli would call that the death of power. You never let others feel they fully grasp your essence. You let them see glimpses, flashes of truth, fragments of personality, but never the full picture. Because once they have the full picture, they stop wondering. And when people stop wondering, they stop respecting. Now, becoming unreadable doesn't mean becoming fake. It means mastering emotional contrast. You can express warmth, but you can withdraw it instantly if needed. You can be passionate about a cause, yet detached from its outcome. You can listen deeply without revealing your agreement. This duality is what Machiavelli considered the art of survival in any hierarchy. Emotional ambidexterity. The ability to feel deeply but reveal selectively. And this skill becomes most visible under pressure. Anyone can stay unreadable when calm, but under stress, the true self leaks out. That's why you must train your emotions in chaos, not comfort. Let people argue, insult, or provoke, and remain centered. The moment you stop being reactive, you become unpredictable. Because most of humanity runs on predictable emotion. They rise, they snap, they vent. But when you don't, the power dynamic flips. Their energy burns out. Yours remains intact. Think about the people you've met who seemed completely unbothered, even when chaos surrounded them. It wasn't that they didn't care, it's that they controlled their reveal. They understood that composure unsettles aggressors more than anger ever could. You can't fight what you can't read. And so, the world starts adjusting to your rhythm instead of the other way around. That's the foundation of psychological dominance, setting the emotional tempo of every interaction. But Machiavelli's brilliance lies deeper than behavior. It's in the mindset. He understood that emotional armor begins with internal detachment. You can't act unreadable if you're internally desperate to be seen, understood, or validated. The world feels that hunger and feeds on it. The moment you need to prove anything, you've already lost control. To be unreadable, you must stop craving recognition altogether. That's what makes the aura genuine. You don't pretend to be indifferent, you are indifferent. Because indifference is unbreakable. This doesn't mean you stop caring about goals or people. It means you stop depending on their approval. You focus on outcomes, not emotions. That's how Machiavellian detachment works. It removes the emotional leash others hold on you. The less they can affect your mood, the less they can manipulate your decisions. Imagine your emotions as levers, and people's words as hands trying to pull them. Your job is to cut off every lever they can reach. Once they realize nothing, they say changes your composure, their influence collapses. Yet unreadability also requires an element of controlled illusion. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear transparent enough to be trusted, but never so transparent that they're predictable. If you appear too guarded, people assume deceit. If you appear too open, they exploit you. The middle ground is mastery, revealing just enough to keep others emotionally invested, but not enough to give them control. You might share a story that seems personal, but it reveals nothing crucial about your vulnerabilities. You might express concern, but not attachment. The world feels connection. You maintain distance. That's psychological armor in motion. Even in modern settings, offices, friendships, negotiations, the principle holds. When people can't read your intentions, they start showing theirs. In meetings, silence makes others over-explain. In arguments, calmness makes others emotional. In competition, unpredictability makes others reveal their plans too soon. The less you speak, the more they fill the void with information you can use. Silence isn't absence, it's leverage. But let's go deeper. Why does unreadability make people respect you? Because humans instinctively respect what they can't define. The unknown triggers caution, curiosity, and even admiration. It signals control. If you can remain composed in emotional storms, others assume you possess something they lack: self-mastery. And people always respect mastery, even when they fear it. Machiavelli's insight was that fear and respect often overlap. The key is to evoke both without hostility. That balance is achieved through emotional ambiguity, neither too open nor too distant, neither too kind nor too cold. It keeps others guessing, and guessing is submission in disguise. Of course, this balance takes time. You'll fail at first. You'll slip. You'll reveal something you shouldn't. But unreadability isn't perfection, it's consistency. The goal is not to be a mystery one-upwishran of the time. It's to ensure that over time, no one can confidently say they fully understand you. They can make guesses, but never conclusions. That uncertainty keeps you free. So, begin watching your own signals. Every sigh, every over-explanation, every attempt to clarify yourself, those are leaks. You're giving people access to your internal map. Start practicing restraint. When accused unfairly, say less. When praised excessively, don't bask. When questioned, answer slowly. Let people sit in uncertainty. They'll either respect you more or expose themselves trying to control the silence. Either way, you win. There's a strange psychological shift that happens when you master this. People start projecting power onto you. They assume depth, strategy, control, even when you're simply being quiet. Your stillness becomes their canvas. They'll imagine you as wise, dangerous, intimidating, or enlightened. It doesn't matter which, because in their attempt to define you, they reveal themselves. You remain untouched, and that's the essence of Machiavellian psychological armor. Letting the world expose its cards while you hold yours close. The final layer of unreadability is this: you must become unpredictable even to yourself. Not chaotic, but detached from habit. Because patterns don't just exist outwardly, they exist inwardly too. If you always respond the same way, your own mind becomes predictable, which others can sense over time. So, occasionally, disrupt your own rhythm. Do something unexpected, not for show, but to remind yourself that you're in control of your impulses, not a slave to them. Machiavelli would call that the highest form of mastery: to command yourself first, before commanding others. The moment you gain control over your inner reactions, you begin to feel something that most people never experience: psychological freedom. No one can trigger you at will anymore. No insult can shake you. No praise can seduce you. You stop being a mirror to other people's emotions and start becoming the wall they can't climb. That's when unreadability becomes more than a strategy. It becomes an identity. You are no longer someone reacting to the world. You are someone shaping how the world reacts to you. Machiavelli understood that perception rules reality. The person who decides how they are perceived decides the game. Most people give up that control without realizing it. They let others define them through visible emotions, instant reactions, and endless explanations. But when you stop explaining yourself, something fascinating happens. People begin to explain you. They fill the silence with their own interpretations, and those interpretations often work in your favor. Because mystery allows people to project their own desires and fears onto you. Some will fear you, some will admire you, but all will think twice before crossing you. That's the effect of psychological armor. It commands carefulness. Yet unreadability without authenticity turns into emptiness. The goal isn't to hide who you are, but to protect it. The world doesn't deserve access to your every emotion. Not everyone earns the right to know what moves you. Machiavelli would say that the inner self must remain sacred territory, accessible only to those who've proven loyalty through time and consistency. Because once your emotions become public property, your strength turns into spectacle. There's also an aesthetic to unreadability. a calm elegance that radiates from those who don't seek validation. You can feel it when someone speaks little but with precision, when they listen without revealing judgment, when they smile slightly but never explain why. It's not arrogance, it's control. Control over one's presentation, one's energy, one's narrative. The kind of control that makes others feel like they're standing in the presence of someone dangerous, not because you threaten them, but because they sense you don't need them. Machiavelli would tell you that dependency is the mother of transparency. The more you depend on someone emotionally, financially, or socially, the more readable you become. Because dependence forces you to reveal yourself to maintain connection. Independence, on the other hand, allows you to choose what to reveal. The freer you are from needing approval, the less predictable you become. So building psychological armor also means building independence, not just of resources, but of emotion. When you can walk away from anything, you gain the ability to remain calm through everything. Think about your presence as an atmosphere that follows you. When you enter a room, people should feel uncertainty mixed with respect. They should sense you see more than you say. That doesn't come from pretending, it comes from observing. The more you observe, the more power you accumulate quietly. Every piece of information others reveal becomes a weapon you can use or ignore. Meanwhile, you remain unreadable. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said that a wise person learns more from fools than fools ever learn from the wise. Because fools expose themselves trying to impress, the wise never need to. You'll notice that people try to read you not out of curiosity, but to control you. It's human nature. They want to know what you're thinking so they can adjust their behavior to influence you. If they know what you want, they can manipulate you with it. If they know what you fear, they can threaten you with it. That's why unreadability is protection, not just against others' manipulation, but against your own emotional leakage. You stop leaking power the way others do, with every sigh, every complaint, every need for reassurance. The practice of unreadability isn't isolation, it's selective exposure. You can still be charming, funny, engaging, but with precision. You control when to turn the charm on and when to go cold, when to share a detail and when to hold it. You become like a dimmer switch, adjusting your visibility depending on who's watching. Most people are like light bulbs, either fully on or fully off. But those who master emotional dimming control the mood of every room they enter. There's also a paradox here. The more unreadable you become, the more magnetic you appear. Because people mistake calm for depth, restraint for confidence, and silence for wisdom. They project greatness onto what they can't see. That's why Machiavelli's most cunning rulers weren't the loudest. They were the ones whose emotions never gave away their strategy. Their enemies spent years trying to understand them, wasting time while they stayed 2 moves ahead. And yet, unreadability doesn't mean emotionlessness. It means emotional ownership. You can feel deeply without being enslaved by what you feel. When anger rises, you notice it, control it, and decide whether it serves your goal. When joy appears, you enjoy it without flaunting it. When pain comes, you endure it privately. That's the mental discipline of a strategist. Every emotion becomes an instrument, not a signal. You use emotion. Emotion doesn't use you. Machiavelli's law of psychological armor can be summarized in one truth. He who reveals least, rules most. But the brilliance lies in how you reveal. Strategic honesty can be more powerful than silence. Sometimes you reveal a weakness to make others underestimate you. Sometimes you share a story to build false intimacy. Sometimes you confess a thought to seem transparent while hiding your real motive underneath it. The art is in revealing without surrendering. Because total secrecy creates paranoia. Controlled openness creates trust. You can test this in small ways. Next time someone asks you a personal question, give them a partial truth. Watch how they react. People rarely seek truth. They seek advantage. When they can't get it, they get uneasy. That unease is your shield. It reminds them that you're not someone to be read like everyone else. You become a variable in their equation, one they can't solve. And in every system of power, the unsolved variable holds the leverage. Unreadability also trains patience. Because you must resist the temptation to be understood instantly. Most people reveal themselves too quickly because they can't tolerate misunderstanding. They rush to correct others' perceptions, to prove their good intentions, to justify their actions. Every justification is a surrender. Let people misunderstand you. Let rumors form. Let opinions circulate. Your truth is your weapon. You never draw it unless it's necessary. Because once it's drawn, it loses its mystery. Eventually, you'll notice something strange. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. When you finally speak, people listen differently. They listen to find meaning between your pauses. They analyze your tone, your timing, your eyes. Your silence has trained them to value your voice. That's how power works. It's not about speaking constantly. It's about making your presence so controlled that even your smallest expression becomes an event. But this transformation demands inner solitude. You can't build psychological armor in noise. You must spend time alone, detached from the opinions of others, until your sense of self becomes solid. Because unreadability without inner clarity turns into confusion. You must know yourself so well that you can afford not to show yourself. That's the paradox of power. Self-awareness breeds invisibility. The stronger your identity within, the less you need to perform it outwardly. And once you reach that point, you start to notice how transparent everyone else is. You'll see how their tone shifts when they feel threatened, how their laughter hides insecurity, how their generosity masks control. You'll read them effortlessly, not because you're manipulative, but because you've stopped leaking the same signals. Their patterns stand out against your stillness. And Machiavelli's final lesson emerges. The one who cannot be read reads everyone else. That is the pinnacle of psychological armor.